Hey guys, it's Julia here, and I'm re-recording the intro because I accidentally said the old intro. Oops. And I have a very important video for you guys today, which is, as you guys know, I made my Goodbye Windows 7 video and I said bye to 7, and I was reading the comments on that video, which I want to say this. Thank you guys for all the support and all the views I got on that. It's almost my #1 video on my channel, currently second, but by the time this goes up, it'll probably be 1, I don't know. But I want to thank you guys for that so much because I did work really hard on that video. I'll put the link in the description if you somehow have not seen it and you ran into this video, if you want to go watch it. So, I noticed a lot of people in my comment section say they're still running Windows 7. So, I'm going to be talking about what you can do if you're still on Windows 7, all the options you have available. I'll briefly go over them because I don't want this video to be super long. I already had to scrap it once, so I'll take some clips from it and put it in this one as I'm talking to kind of like show as I'm talking. So, anyways, #1 method, which I did show in Goodbye Windows 7 video, but I don't know how many people saw it because it was like a 20-minute video, so anyways, the first method is you can upgrade Windows 7 to Windows 10. Now, there is still a way to do it to get it for free from Microsoft's website. Now, I don't know how long this will work for, but it works as of right now, I'm pretty sure. So pretty much all you have to do is go to Google, search Windows 10 download. I'll put a link in the description to the page, but it is for English US, so if you're in another country, you may want to look it up. So you just look up Windows 10 download, click the download Windows 10 disk image link, and then it'll be Microsoft's website, and there should be a download tool now button. And then you'll click it, and it'll download something called the media creation tool. Now you're probably thinking, this is to create Windows 10 USBs and to download ISOs. Well, it can do that, but it can also upgrade your current computer to Windows 10 with the upgrade this PC now option. Which you could do that to upgrade, just go through the prompts and it'll upgrade you, or you could download the ISO, extract the files with 7-zip and run setup.exe. That way you can have it for multiple computers, or you can create a Windows 10 USB and use that to upgrade multiple computers. Now, if your Windows 7 is already activated, it will give Windows 10 a digital license, so you will have activation, but for some reason if it doesn't work, it's fine because all you're losing without activation is no personalization and a watermark in the bottom right corner, but everything will still function and work like normal. So even if your 7 is not activated, you could put in a Windows 10 generic key for installing, but it will not activate your Windows. So that is option #1, is to upgrade to Windows 10. Option #2 is if you don't like Windows 10, you can upgrade to Windows 8.1, which you just search Windows 8.1 download, go to the download disk image link again for 8.1, and then select all your information, for example, what country you're in and all that stuff, so it can give you the right ISO, and then download it, and then download 7-zip to extract the files and run setup.exe, but you will run into a few issues. #1, you won't have activation unless you have a product key for 8.1. You could use a generic key for installing purposes, but again, you won't have activation. You'll have a watermark. It'll pop up like every hour, a big activate Windows screen, which is kind of annoying. And that's like the one annoying thing about 8. And also, if you're upgrading from 7 to 8.1, for some reason it only lets you keep your files. It doesn't let you keep your programs. I'm not sure why that is. I think it's because you have to go 8 and then to 8.1. But I don't know where to get an 8 ISO. You'd have to go to a website that isn't Microsoft. But there is a program that you could download to work around it, but I don't know if I really trusted it. It's like some Russian program. I've used it a couple times, and a couple of my friends have used it, and it's worked. But if you can just look up how to upgrade 7 to 8.1 without losing files and go to that route if you want to do that. It does work. I just don't know if it's safe, but most likely because I've done it a couple times and it's been okay. But that is your second option. So your third option of what you could do is possibly switching to a completely different operating system that isn't Windows, such as Linux. Now the reason I say this is you may have a Windows 7 computer that cannot run Windows 8.1 or Windows 10, like it's incompatible and it can't run at all, and you don't really have a choice, like if it's a really old computer. So what you could do is you could dual boot Linux, or you could just back up all your data and, clean install Linux and have only Linux. Now the Linux distros I recommend, which the one I show in the video is Linux Mint, because it's similar to Windows and it's very user friendly and it's pretty easy to use. Some other options you have is Ubuntu or Manjaro, and there's all kinds of Linux distros out there. I'm just giving a couple for you guys to work with, but you could download a Linux ISO, make a USB with like Rufus, but keep in mind if your computer's MBR or GPT, I would just make it in MBR, because even if your computer is GPT, Linux will do it in GPT because that's how Linux is. So I would just make the USB in MBR, and then you could boot off of that USB on your computer, and then you should be able to install Linux. Now if you are on UEFI, you will have to disable secure boot, otherwise it won't install. But I just used an ISO in a virtual machine, booted off of it, and I just told it to install alongside. And then that way, when it boots up, it asks if you want to boot to Linux or Windows, because I didn't wipe it. So pretty much Linux is another option that you can do. And number 4 is kind of tying into like other things you could do if you had to. So if you can't upgrade due to compatibility problems with applications, you have 3 options. 1, after you upgrade to Windows 10 or 8 or whatever, you could make a virtual machine of Windows 7 to run your software. Now I'm not going to go in detail on how to do that. You could just install VirtualBox or VMware, which is what I'm using in the video. That way I'm able to have this Windows 7 VM on my Windows 10 to show you guys. So that's one option. Another option is compatibility mode on the application, because you could just right click it, go to properties, go to the compatibility tab, and then change it to Windows 7. It may or may not work depending on application. The third option, don't really recommend as much, is again dual booting, meaning you can dual boot Windows 10 and Windows 7. So if you want to dual boot, I show here in my VM going to disk management and shrinking the volume of my C drive. Now it does measure it in megabytes, so 100 megabytes would be like 100,000, but it will be less because of the weird way they do it. You probably could look up a website for like megabytes to gigabytes or gigabytes to megabytes. That way you'll be able to get the exact amount you want, because it is kind of strange. And then once you create that and you have unallocated space, you would boot off of like a Windows 10 installer or an 8 installer or whatever you want, and then install to that unallocated partition. And then once the computer boots, it'll ask if you want Windows 7 or Windows 10, or depending on what other operating system you chose. But I would primarily use Windows 10 for your stuff, and then Windows 7 for, you know, the applications you can't run. Now if you do a clean install of Windows 10, it won't have activation if you've never upgraded your computer to Windows 10. However, you could use the product key for Windows 7 on the bottom or on the side of your computer to activate Windows 10, because Windows 7 keys will activate Windows 10. You could do that, but I don't know how that would affect your Windows 7 activation. But if you're only using 7 for a couple programs that are not compatible with 10, then that's fine. Or you could just get an older computer, you know, to run those older applications. You're better off getting a new computer if possible if you cannot run Windows 10. If your computer's incompatible, it's obviously really old if it can't run 10. However, not everyone has the money to do that, and I understand. So that is why I'm going over some other things. Okay, so if you literally cannot do anything, you can't do any of those options, which I do have some other options you can do. It's not meant for the average user, but I will mention them. So there's another operating system that's supposedly still supported, which I believe is Windows Embedded POS Ready 7. I don't know how long that's supported for. I just heard about people talking about it, so I have to do more research on that. I can put up some information and let you guys know, but there is that operating system that's based off of 7, but then again, product keys is the issue with an activation. That also goes with the next thing I'm going to say, which is Windows 10 LTSC. It means long-term support. There's 3 versions. There's 2 LTSB ones and an LTSC one. They don't get feature updates, but they do update the LTSB and LTSC versions, but you would have to download ISOs for that. The reason I don't really recommend LTSC, especially for like an average user, is activation. Microsoft does have evaluations for LTSC, but they're only 90 days, and you can only rearm the activation up to like 3 times, maybe 2 times, I don't know. So it's not really recommended to use them. They're really meant for businesses, and the keys are really hard to find. I heard you could buy keys on eBay and such, but I believe you're not even allowed to sell them on eBay, so I don't know how they do that, because I'm pretty sure it's against their policy, but people do that stuff. But anyways, I still really don't recommend it unless you really don't like the current version of 10. Really, LTSC is for the people that despise 10 but have to use it. Or they could use 8.1, but that's another option, but not really meant for the average user. The other thing I've heard is I keep hearing that there's still ways to get updates on Windows 7 for free, but I'm just gonna say this now, I really do not recommend that. I'm pretty sure it's illegal because you're getting them for free when you're supposed to be paying for them. So it's kind of like cracking. Like, I'm against cracking software. I feel like it's wrong. You shouldn't do that. And that also goes with Windows as well. And I believe getting updates for free is still considered cracking because they cost a lot of money to still get extended support for 7. So I do not recommend doing that. I recommend doing all the other options I said, but do not do the way to get updates still on 7 because that is illegal. So, well, now I'm gonna briefly talk about the risks of staying on Windows 7. So pretty much if you're still on Windows 7, you're no longer getting important security updates, and those are important to patch exploits in your system. I know a lot of people are like, well, I could stay on 7 and use an antivirus. Well, here's the thing. Antiviruses do not patch the exploits. The updates patches the exploits. That way, the antivirus won't even see that a virus is coming in because that exploit where it was trying to come in is patched. However, if it's unpatched, it'll come in, and whether or not your antivirus will catch it or not depends. So pretty much, the antiviruses don't patch the exploits, the updates is what patches your operating system, and depending on your antivirus definitions, that will determine whether the virus gets stopped or not. However, if you had the update, it wouldn't have even tried to get in your system in the first place. The antivirus wouldn't have sent anything because that patch would have stopped the virus from coming in the first place. Now, there are malicious advertisements out there, and I think that's called malvertising, where a malicious ad like infects your computer through a drive-by download. To help prevent those, if you're still going to run 7, you could get an ad blocker such as uBlock Origin or AdBlock Plus, and that will definitely help with the malicious ads because that way you're not getting any ads. Therefore, any malicious ads will get blocked. So that is an option. And again, if you still can't upgrade, like if you're on a business computer and they haven't upgraded to Windows 10 yet and you're still running 7, let them know, let the IT know that you don't feel safe using 7 and see what they can do. But if they can't do anything, like they can't afford to upgrade the computers or whatever, just be careful what sites you go to. Only use your computer for work. Don't go to random websites. Don't look up random things. And if you can, try to have an ad blocker. That way the malicious ads get blocked on your system. So, pretty much using 7, just no more updates, meaning exploits will happen, and that's not good. And so, pretty much you gotta be careful. So, anyways, those are the risks of still using 7, but I'm gonna end the video here. If you guys have any questions or any comments, let me know. If you need help doing one of the methods, or you want a more detailed video on one of the methods, also let me know. And anyways, if you do get stuck on something, you could do some Googling or some looking up, or leave a comment, and therefore you'll be able to figure it out, hopefully. So, anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Sorry I haven't been making very many videos. I've had school going on and such, and if I don't reply to everyone, I'm sorry. I'm trying my best, but I am going to be very busy with school, so I may not get to everyone. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.